Welcome back to Mrs. Bisson's virtual classroom. Today we'll be working with original price problems and multiple step problems, which is a continuation and the last lesson in our solving percentage problems using proportions series or unit. So this is the last lesson before your next test. So this is all that will be on your test, everything that we've covered so far. And I do want to remind you that these videos are available at any time, so you can use them at night when you're studying or when you're doing your homework. If you have some confusion and you need some instruction, they're actually available to you online. So you're welcome to listen to those if you need to. For this lesson, you will need a sharpened pencil with an eraser, a calculator, a guided notes sheet, and you'll need to follow along and fill in the spaces as prompted in the video, and you'll also need your headphones if you don't already have those. If you do not have these supplies, any of these supplies, please pause the video, go retrieve them, and come back and resume the video when you are prepared. Okay, so let's do a quick review. For percent proportions, you know that the percent always goes on the upper left-hand side. You always know that, or you also know, that on the bottom left-hand side, that's where your 100 goes, and it's always like that. Now, we did learn that on the right-hand side, it is part and whole, which is correct, and we also learned that in some problems, the words is and of can be used there to help us know where to place the numbers. And remember, we learned that I comes before O, of course, so we can use that to our advantage and say, okay, well, I comes before O, so I know I is going to come first. As well, we know now that the original price, and I know we talked about this in class yesterday, the original price can also be a word that you can write here, and you have these in your guided notes, of course, and you will be able to use these to study with, and you'll be given this information as well for your test. So make sure that you know original always goes on the bottom, so it goes with of and it goes with whole, and this is the original amount. The original whole amount goes on the bottom right. So I know we talked about that yesterday, but I wanted to review that because this is really important for this unit.
A percentage is a ratio that compares a number to 100. A percentage expresses a number as a fraction of 100. A part of 100 is what percent means in Latin. Now let's take a look at those percentages in action. 90% on a test. That's good. 10% of the weekend left. That's bad. 40% chips in your party mix. That's good. 100% of just pretzel sticks. That's bad. Percentages are related to decimals and fractions. It's easy to quickly convert your numbers into them. 1% is the same as 1 over 100 or 0.01. 100% is the same as 100 over 100 or 1.
So I hope you enjoyed the review. Let's go ahead and dive into the original price further. So what is original? Well, something original means that it is belonging or pertaining to the origin or beginning of something. So when you think about it like that, you can tell that the original price is the price that the object was or the item was before it was increased or decreased. So it makes sense that the original price or the original whole price would have been the price before you did anything to change it. I know that we already did this in our review because we touched on this a little bit yesterday, but I want to touch on it a little bit more in depth. So we know that the percent goes on the upper left hand side, and all of you are doing phenomenal with that, knowing that percent goes on the upper left-hand side and 100 goes on the lower left-hand side. So let's talk about the part whole area and where is the original price. We know before we said that the original price goes on the bottom right. And that's because it's the original whole amount. Now the part on the top then, that is going to be your final price. So you can remember this almost exactly like you did with the is and of, except now you're working with an F and an O, and you know an F comes before an O in the alphabet. So if you need to use that to figure out which one goes where, you can definitely do that. So final goes on the top and the original goes on the bottom. So the difference with this is that you will have, if you have a markup, your number will obviously be larger on the top. If you have a discount that you're applying, the number will be larger on the top than it is on the bottom. So that's something that you can look at. And of course, I always encourage you to do your checks after each problem to make sure that your proportion does end up being equal like it should be when you replace your variable with the amount that you got. And then if you do have some issues when you do your check and you say, oh my goodness, I must have done something incorrectly, you can look here and say, okay, well, did I put my original price? Did I put my variable in my original price and the final price in the top right side of the proportion? And you can identify where you went wrong. So let's look at an example here. Damien purchased a Cleveland Cavaliers shirt with a 30% off coupon and paid $35. What was the original price? So let's go ahead and use our cube strategy that all of us should be using anytime we work with these problems, with any word problem actually. So we're going to circle our numbers. We have 30% here. We have $35 here. So that looks like we've covered all of our numbers. We're going to underline the question. So let's do this. Okay, we're going to box in any of the important words. I would say that original is a super important word. And I am going to actually box in off coupon as well, because that tells me that it's a discount. Because when I go into a store with a coupon for a certain percentage off, I am expecting that price to be lower at the end, not higher. So I know that's a discount. So what do we do when we have a discount? We have to subtract the percentage, which here is 30%, from 100. In this example, then we would get 70. And that would become our new percent that we would use in our proportion. So let me set up the proportion. On the upper left, we have our percent. So we're going to use 70. 100 always goes on the bottom left. Now we know that we have our final price and original price. This is where you're going to put those. So the original price is what we're trying to find. So that's our variable. And if it helps you, under the question, you can put an X or whatever variable you want. If your name starts with a J, then you can most certainly use a J as your variable if you like to do that. So the final price, he paid $35. So go ahead and solve this. Pause the video, solve it, and come right back. Okay, you should have used your butterfly strategy. And you should have got 70x equals 100 times 35. And then after solving that, you have and then 70. And then your final answer should have been $50. So he spent $35, but the original price was $50 before the coupon. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this one. I know we did this problem before, but it's actually an original price problem. And I'd like you to go ahead and see if you can solve this all by yourself using the cube strategy by yourself. Go ahead and pause the video and work out this problem on your own. For this problem, you should have set up your proportion with 166 on the top because we know that this was a markup, and you would have taken 100 plus 66 to get 166. You should have had 66, 115 circled, and I definitely would have had markup and original price boxed. And then, of course, your question is what was the original price? Okay, so you should have had 166 is equal to 115 over x. When you solve this, you would have gotten something like this. You would have had x equals 69.277108. But when we go to the store, they don't say, okay, that'll be $69 and 0.277108. So we know that we have to round this. So x is going to equal $69, and our hundredths place is what we're looking to round to. So we look to the neighbor, and if it's 5 or above, you give it a shove, and so you should have $69.28. Good job. If you figured that one out, if you have questions, please raise your hand and I will come assist you. Okay, so let's talk about multi-step problems. I'm confident that all of you know how to do this because you already know how to do everything in the problem. You just have to read the word problem a little more closely. So multi means many or multiple. So it means that there is more than one step. You'll know that the problem is a multi-step problem because you will be given more information in the word problem, and you may even be asked multiple questions. So not all of the questions are going to be the same, but they will be more complicated when you're reading them. So you may be able to figure out that, okay, this is a multi-step problem. So let's look at the first multi-step problem that we have here. A store bought a lawnmower at a cost of $20 and marked it up 50%. Later on, the store marked it down 50%. What was the discount price? Okay, so we know that we're going to use our cube strategy because we're awesome 7th grade mathematicians, and that's what we do. So we're circling our numbers. Oh, look at that. We have more numbers than we usually do. So that's interesting. That's a clue right here. All right, so we know that they're asking what the discounted price was. Okay, and we know also that we're going to cube in some words. So we have markup. So we know that's a markup. Okay. Later on, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and cube that in because that tells me that this is a multi-step problem. Okay, and then marking it down is in there as well. Look at all of these clues we have. So we know that it got marked up and then it got marked down. Okay, so what was the discount price? That's our variable. And we know where that goes. All right, so we're going to set up the proportion for part 1. We know that this is a multi-step problem. Even though we have one question, we've got 2 parts here because they marked it up and then they marked it down. So we know part 1 is going to be It's a markup, so we know we're going to take 100 plus 50. So you'll get 150. You know that 100 always goes on the bottom. And then we know that it was originally $20. And then there's our variable. Go ahead and pause the video and solve this. And then come back and resume once you have solved for the variable. So you know that part 1, the answer is 30, but we're not finished yet. We're only right here. So we know that after the markup, this was the price of the lawnmower. So what you're going to do in these two-step problems, these multiple step problems, this becomes your new original price. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. So in part 1, that becomes your new original price. Okay, so let's move on to part 2 then. So now we know that it got marked down. So now we have to take 100 minus 50, which is 50. So that goes in our percent. The 100 goes on the bottom left, just like it always does. And then now, because we have our final price and we have our original price, we know that our new original price was 30. So that's actually going to go here. So pause the video, solve for X, come back and check your answer. You should have got $15. So that is your final answer. And we know that after the store marked it up by 50% and then later marked it down by an additional 50%, the discount price was $15. Now, please note that if you see something like this, you cannot just add the percentages together to find your answer. You have to do it as a multiple step problem.
Yay!
Okay, this is our final example question that we're going to work with. Let's use our cube strategy. So a store in Newbury purchased a coffee table at a cost of $30 and marked it up by up 150%. Later on, Shang bought the coffee table. If the sales tax in Newbury is 12%, how much did he pay in all? So let's circle our numbers. Lots of numbers here. We can definitely tell already that it's a multiple step problem. How much did he pay in all? So they're asking for the final price here. Okay, and let's go ahead and cube in the important numbers. So markup, that's definitely really important. And then sales tax is really important. And sales tax is solved just like markup is. So we know that we're going to be doing first a markup problem and then a sales tax problem. So see if you can figure this one out on your own and then come back to the video to see if you did it correctly. Okay, so here we have, you should have taken 100 plus 150. Because even though it's a 150% markup, you still have to add that 100. Even if it was 350% markup, which some products, believe it or not, such as jewelry sometimes and other expensive luxury items, are marked up more than 100%. So you always have to add the 100 to whatever the markup percentage is. So here you should have got 250 over 100, just like we always do, percent over the 100, and then you would have had, you know, the original price was $30 and you would have had X. Once you solved for X, there you would have got X equals $75, but you wouldn't be finished there. That's just the answer to part 1. So now you would need to take that, and that becomes your new original price. And then you would go ahead and you have your 12%, so you have to take 100 plus 12. You'd get 112 over 100. And now you have a new original price, and you would have put 75 there, and then your variable there. And after solving that, you should have the answer of $84. So in all, the final price that Sheng paid for the coffee table was $84. And that's your final answer. This is what you would write as your answer on your test. Okay, so now that we've done a quick introduction and review of some new concepts and some old concepts, let's go ahead and get started with practice.